What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick. These weapons came from the moon. Cactus here. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to support the channel, and let me know what you want my next intro name to be. And guys, try to keep it appropriate for YouTube for once, you crazy kooks. Alright, now today we are going to be taking a look at all of the reissued moon weapons being added to Destiny 2 in the massive mid-season update on July 6th. Now, although we only know one of the new perks spawning with these reissued weapons, because they are reissued, we know their starting stats as well as their weapon archetypes will remain the same. So what we're going to do is look at those factors. Are their weapon archetypes seeing a lot of play in the meta, or is no one using them? Are their stats better or worse than average based on other weapons within their archetypes? To determine if you guys should go to the Lectern of Enchantment and spend your resources on these weapons right away. Like, are they a buy right out of the gate on July 6th? Are they a wait, see how the meta settles, see how these weapons are performing? Or are they a pass, just don't bother with these weapons? Well, that's the point of today's video, and so let's get started. But first, speaking of that Lectern of Enchantment, I have a huge tip for you guys. So, there's nothing saying that you can't go to the Lectern right now before July 6th and buy these essences and complete them. Simply don't turn them in. Like, once you complete an essence, you go to the Lectern and then you can actually pick up your weapon. Potentially, after July 6th, you'll be able to pick up a new reissued version of that weapon. So you can essentially complete these quests early. However, that's not guaranteed to work, but you may want to do it just in case it does. Another tip I have for you guys is that some of these will be grayed out. For example, this one here for the shotgun. I don't have it in my quest tab of my inventory. Where the heck is it? Well, it turns out you have to go to the tower, to the quest archive, interactable right here, and it's under abandoned quests. So some of you guys may have some issues with that. There's another tip for you guys. All right, now let's get started here with the actual weapons, and firstly, we have the Loud Lullaby hand cannon. The one perk we know it's going to spawn with is Tunnel Vision, which increases aim assistance and target acquisition when you reload after getting a kill, which could be pretty decent with a 120 hand cannon. Now, the interesting thing is that the Loud Lullaby, because it's a 120, this was honestly one of the main weapons people were saying, oh, buy, this is gonna be the best out of all of the moon weapons. But I wanted to wait until the most recent TWAB to see if there was any additional information on these weapons, and I'm very glad I did, because it turns out Bungie is nerfing 120 hand cannons with this exact same update. So actually, I would recommend waiting on the Loud Lullaby. Don't spend your resources to buy a bunch of its essence, because you may want to see how this nerf actually affects its archetype. If 120s are still really good in the Crucible, then absolutely go ahead and buy. But again, hold off a bit. The one exception, however, is if the Loud Lullaby can get kill clip or multi-kill clip. The original version could get multi-kill clip. Now, the reason for that is because one of the nerfs makes it so that you can't 2-tap with a 10% damage increase, so Rampage ×1. However, with something like Kill Clip, that provides a much greater than 10% damage increase. So you could get one kill, reload quickly with Kill Clip, and then start 2-tapping people. So if it can spawn with a Kill Clip perk, then the Loud Lullaby is absolutely a buy. But another thing that makes me hesitant is the fact that its starting stats are actually trash. Like, to give you guys a perspective, the Igneous Hammer has 68 range, so 10 more, and 42 stability, which is nearly 20 more, and 9 more aim assistance. It beats the Loud Lullaby in pretty much every important stat. So again, if it's not for those kill clip perks, pass on the Loud Lullaby. Moving on from there, the next weapon we have is the One Small Step Shotgun. Now, this is a rapid fire frame, so fastest firing, lowest damage, but the perk we know it's getting is Trench Barrel. And that is actually a really good PvE perk, providing an insane 50% damage bonus for the next 3 shots after a melee hit. And guys, this is a buy. Like, buy. This is one of the most exciting weapons out of all of these moon weapons, frankly. And the reason is not because of its stats are actually pretty average for its archetype, but rather it's the archetype specifically. Guys, when this comes out, it will be the only non-sunset rapid fire frame kinetic shotgun in the game. And that matters because rapid fires are really good in PvE, especially when combined with trench barrel. They can put out a ton of damage. But again, if you want to use one in your kinetic slot and want to use like a great energy primary, you literally cannot. This will be your only option, and that makes it extremely valuable, especially because there's a big shotgun shakeup and a nerf to shotguns in general, which actually lowers their 1-hit kill potential but increases their 2-hit kill potential by increasing their maximum range. So we could see rapid fires rise in the PvP meta as well. So keep that in mind. One small step, absolutely buy. But moving on from there, we have the Tranquility legendary kinetic sniper rifle. And the perk we know it can get is Frenzy, where if you're in combat for an extended period of time, you get a 15% damage increase and you increase your reload speed as well. Now, the Tranquility is an adaptive frame sniper rifle, so 90 rounds per minute, same as the Adored, and this thing definitely has some potential. But I would definitely classify it as weight. Its starting stats are pretty average. In fact, the Eye of Soul, which is another kinetic adaptive sniper, beats it in pretty much every important stat. However, not by that much. I would be looking at its perks. Specifically, Frenzy is actually pretty darn good in PvE, and the original version could get the extremely rare perk Firing Line, where the weapon would deal increased precision damage when near 2 or more allies. So in a boss DPS scenario, if you're fighting a raid boss or something like that, and your entire team is in a well, Firing Line triggers and gives you a huge increase to damage. If it can get Firing Line again, it's an absolute buy, but wait until you see those perks, because there's other weapons similar to it that are doing a better job in terms of stats. But next up, we have the Arc Logic. Now, this is an adaptive frame, 600 rounds per minute archetype, energy auto rifle, and the perk we know it can get is Heating Up. Now, that's actually pretty exciting. Heating Up provides a huge bonus to stability and accuracy after getting a kill, so turning this thing into a laser beam in PvP could be worthwhile. However, I would still classify the Arc Logic as a weight. It has some solid competition. Both the Gnawing Hunger and the Summoner from Trials are also adaptive frame energy auto rifles. And frankly, the Arc Logic's stats are below average. Like, the Gnawing Hunger starting stats embarrass this weapon's stats. If you have a good Gnawing Hunger, it's unlikely the Arc Logic can even come close. However, it is, as you probably guessed, Arc, which means that the Gnawing Hunger is void and the Summoner is solar. This kind of completes the lot. There isn't another non-sunset Arc 600 RPM auto, so if you like those, and I think they're pretty good in PvE, and you want to use it in activities that have match game and so on, it could be worth going after, but that's a pretty niche scenario. I would still classify this as weight. But moving on, we have the Dreambreaker, which is an adaptive frame fusion rifle, and the one perk we know it can get is Cornered. That's pretty exciting, because right now the Plug 1 is the only fusion rifle in the game that can get cornered. This would be the second, and Cornered makes it so that if you're surrounded by 2 or more enemies, you have a much faster charge time. However, because it's an adaptive, that's one away, one above from rapid fire, so the charge time is already pretty darn decent, and unfortunately, this weapon's starting stats are below average. To give you guys an example, some of its competition, the Techian Force, which is still non-sunset because it's from the Last Wish raid, that has a range of 45 and stability of 45, so both are better. The Trinary System, which drops from Gambit, range of 45, stability of 49, so the Dreambreaker is absolutely falling behind. The one advantage is again that unique perk, and if it can get something incredible in that first slot to complement that perk, maybe, but otherwise I'm gonna have to classify this as a pass. But next up, we have the Every Waking Moment, which is a precision frame 600 rounds per minute energy submachine gun. And the perk we know it can get is Killing Wind. And that's actually pretty exciting. Killing Wind is going to increase your range pretty decently after a kill and your mobility, both of which you want with this archetype. However, the big downside to the Every Waking Moment is that it has some direct competition in the form of the Shayura's Wrath from Trials of Osiris, which was just added this season. That is also a precision frame energy submachine gun. Heck, they're both void even, and the Wrath has just better stats overall. The Wrath has 63 range and 50 stability. So why would you use the Every Waking Moment? Well, quite simply because if you don't want to go in trials, this is your alternative. Especially if you can get a roll with Killing Wind and maybe something else like Kill Clip or Rampage to increase its lethality, it can be a backup Shayura's Wrath to those people who don't want to go in trials. But really, if you have a good Wrath, there's absolutely no reason to get the Every Waking Moment. It's a pass, but if you don't, I think this is leaning more towards wait or even maybe buy. Moving on from there, we have the Love and Death. Now this is a rapid fire frame heavy grenade launcher. And the perk we know it can get is Chain Reaction, where getting a kill will cause that enemy to explode. That is a decent perk, but not really for this archetype of grenade launcher. This doesn't see a lot of play in PvP, where the rapid fires do see play a little bit is in PvE, because they can output a ton of DPS. This thing was actually extremely meta when it first came out, because its god roll was spike grenades combined with field prep for more reserve ammo, and then full court, which increased detonation damage as the projectile travels further. If it can get that same roll, that's actually pretty decent. In fact, if it can get full court at all, that's a pretty rare and valuable perk for damage output. It's going to be pretty decent. But barring that, it's already got a lot of competition, especially with the Behringer's Memory that can get some unbelievably good rolls. So this thing's perks have got to be out of control and specifically focused around PvE for it to be any worthwhile. So I would classify this definitely as a wait. But moving on from there, we have a Fine Memorial. Now this is an adaptive frame, so 450 rounds per minute power machine gun. And the perk it can get is Adrenaline Junkie, where you can increase the damage after getting a grenade final blow. So this thing, looking at its stats, is kind of garbage. I'm not gonna lie, the stats are extremely below average. To give you guys some perspective, the Commemoration, which comes from the Deepstone Crypt raid, which is also an adaptive frame, that can get 62 range and 60 stability, and it also spawns with the unbelievable Reconstruction perk, giving it like 150 rounds in a magazine. It's really hard to even comprehend a combination of perks that could come even close to the power of the Commemoration. And no one even uses the Commemoration because machine guns are lagging behind, especially in PvE. They are going to get buffed, that was confirmed as well in the most recent TWAB, but still, they're not doing well right now. In addition, Adrenaline Junkie is a fine perk, but nothing incredible. The one caveat, however, is if this can get Demolitionist plus Adrenaline Junkie for a grenade wombo combo. Right now, the only gun that can get that is actually, funny enough, another adaptive frame machine gun, the Corrective Measure from the Vault of Glass raid, which also has much better stats than this thing, by the way. So, unless it can get that combo, it's a pass, because the stats aren't anywhere good enough to justify a PvP role either. But moving on from there, our last weapon we're looking at is the Night Terror. Now this is an adaptive frame power sword. Now the adaptive frame is definitely the most common archetype here. However, although it has a lot of competition, none of its competition can get the perk we know it can get, which is One for All, where if you damage 3 enemies, you get 10 seconds of a 35% damage increase. The only other sword in the game that can get that perk is the Quick Fang, which is the Hunter exclusive sword. And that thing is pretty darn good with One for All. One for All is actually pretty impressive on a sword if you're using it especially for just clearing out ads. Smack a few red bars and suddenly get a huge damage boost to take down the more powerful enemies. So the Night Terror could be pretty good with One for All, because the Quick Fang, it does less damage than usual because of its lightweight frame. The adaptive frame Night Terror could really carry that damage and do some impressive stuff with it. With that being said, adaptive frames, they're not as good as the Whirlwind frames, or even the new high impact frame, which is the Titan specific sword. So this archetype has just fallen behind. So barring some really incredible perks, I would say the Night Terror is definitely more of a wait. And so guys, that is it going over all of the different upcoming moon weapons. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it informative, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.